we're going to take a quick look at some of the new data available in Parish Online and XMAP, specifically the Ordnance Survey National Geographic Database buildings data. So to get to that, your screen will look slightly different depending on what version of the software you've got, but you'll find a collection called Ordnance Survey NGD. Let's just click that to expand that collection. And I'm going to click on the new layer here, which is called Buildings. Okay, you'll notice it's got the little icon there, which means I'm too far zoomed out to look at that data because there's a lot of it. So let's zoom in. And you can see these blue outlines on the buildings. Now you'll also notice that these line up pretty much perfectly to the master map, the background Ordnance Survey mapping. You can see that when I turn that off and turn it on again, it's a different layer sitting on top. And these are now clickable objects. So if I click on one of those, in the left hand side panel here, it's going to give me information about that building. So you've got things like description, building use, the number of addresses that are represented, associated with that property, building age estimates, height estimates, roof information, all this kind of stuff. So that's great. That's essentially what the NGD Buildings data is. However, at face value, just browsing around it, unless you were wanting to copy this object into your own layer to go and edit it, there's not a huge amount of usefulness to that layer, which is why we've decided to do some extra work on it. So you'll see here we've also got some other layers: buildings, recent changes, number of floors, and solar potential. These are derived data sets, so we've kind of value added the buildings data set to expose some new and interesting information, all with the idea that it puts it on a plate for you so you can have a browse around and hopefully gain some insight from it. So we're going to turn off that other layer there, and let's turn on recent changes. Now, as it says on the tin, this is highlighting just buildings that have changed within the last 3 months. Now, that change might have been attribution, by which I mean the text information stored within it, or it might be geometry, and by that I mean the shape of it. And when you click on these ones, you're going to get the same information, but a cut down version of it. So we're just highlighting what the changes are here. And really, you can just see that it's modified attribution. So this is useful for looking at your area in a wider view and seeing where there's been building changes. And the majority of them are attribution changes. And if I'm lucky, I'll be able to find another one which is geometry change. But we'll be able to see the difference in the legend here. The modified geometry ones come up in pink. Okay, so that's the recent changes layer. Now the next one is the number of floors. So the NGD data has information for the height of the building and the number of floors. So what we've decided to do is visualize that. Again, let's have a look in the legend to see what it's showing. And it's showing a grade of the number of floors. You'll notice there is an unknown field here, and you'll see on the map there's lots of grey buildings. That will change over time as Ordnance Survey bring more updates into the data. And just as an aside, we're typically updating this data every month. We may change that based on demand, but that's how much we're changing it at the moment. So these are the heights of buildings. So as the sort of teal, dark blue gets darker, those are higher buildings. Let's go into a more urban area here. And you'll see that there's also yellow and red buildings. So let's have a look at what that means. Now, the yellow ones are representing residential buildings that are high enough that they need to have sprinkler systems installed. This is not showing buildings that necessarily have sprinkler systems installed, but it's the ones that technically should. And then if we go up again, we're into HRB, which stands for Higher Risk Building. Now, this is defined by the Building Safety Act 2022, and so this is highlighting high-risk buildings. You'll notice you've got the number of floors in here as well. This goes up in a scale, and again, it's highlighting those buildings that are either commercial or residential and classed as high risk. This can include also care homes and hospitals, for example. So hopefully you'll find that dataset useful, and it's really good in urban areas like this, but it's also quite interesting in rural areas and small villages where it can pick out on properties that you might not have expected sprinklers are needed. And with all layers, we have a filter tool in here. So I can go and click on the filter, and I can say, go and show me all the buildings where the sprinklers needed is true, and it will go and show me just those on the map. Again, simplifying the map, make it much more impactful if you're doing a printout, for example. Okay, and then the final layer that we've added in is solar potential. So what we've done here is we've taken the information stored within the Ordnance Survey NGD Buildings data, and we're visualizing that. We've also done some calculations ourselves on the solar potential for each building. Now, take the results with a pinch of salt, because all proper solar evaluations for a building needs to be done by a surveyor and done properly. This is just an indication of how much solar capacity a building has, or solar potential. And what we can see on the map is anything going from sort of yellow through to amber through to red are residential buildings, and everything going from light blue up to dark blue are residential or other types of buildings. You'll also notice there are green buildings on there, and that's where the NGD data is indicating that solar panels already exist on that property. Now, that doesn't mean that it's maximised the solar potential for that property, but it shows that there is already an installation on there. So this is quite nice to go and visualize, and we can click on any of these objects and you can see what the solar potential is in kilowatt potential, and what its building use is, number of floors, etc, etc. That might help to see how easy it's going to be to install. And there we go, there's another one. And as you zoom in, we're also highlighting that kilowatt potential on the map as well. Okay, we hope you find these new datasets useful. We'd love to hear your feedback, and we'll be bringing more of the Ordnance Survey NGD data in very soon. Thank you.